Hello and welcome to the next episode of my Learn With Me Opsix series. So far we've covered most of the major features of the synthesizer, all the way from looking at how the panel works, looking at the individual operators, up through some FM sound design, and to non-FM sound design of various types. What I would like to do today is to try and bring some of that together and design a more complicated sound. That's to say, to go through a more complete sound design process as I might do in designing a sound that I were going to use in some music or for some other purpose. So let's get to an init patch and let's talk about what we're going to do. Well, firstly, I like the flexibility afforded by the user algorithms. It allows me to freely change my mind about what's going to happen within the sound. So I think that's useful. Secondly, I think we need to decide what type of sound we're going to make. And I would say what makes the most sense to me is a pad, but a more complex moving pad. So I feel like FM has a lot of capacity for doing things like pads. It's fun to do plucky sounds and sort of acoustic instrument simulation type of sounds, but I think pads and other complex modulated sounds are where it can really show its best. So I had a little think about the sounds, especially the non-FM sounds that we've been using. And one of the things I thought was, well, if I'm doing a complex pad, I'd like it to be layered, and I'd like it to be made of several different parts. So I would like to use 3 different approaches to synthesis for the 3 different parts of the sound. So my thinking was I liked that ring mod feedback that I haven't really used previously, and it only takes 1 operator. So I think I might put that in the bass. I think people imagine this as an FM synthesizer, so I would probably like to put the FM synthesis in the mids as the body of the sound, and in the treble I would like to use the comb filter method, the sort of physical modeling type of sound, but maybe longer lasting, so it sounds more like a bowed instrument than just a plucked. I like the string sound that it gives. So I know that that needs 2 operators, so I'm going to need 3 operators in the mid. So I may as well assign my operators now. So let's go to user algorithm edit. 1 operator for the lows, 2 operators for the mids, 3 operators for the mids, and 2 operators for the treble. So this alone is going to be our bass sound. These 3 are going to be our mid sound, and these 2 are going to be our upper sound. I already decided that I wanted to go with this ring mod feedback that we used previously. Let's just check all of these are down and this is up. Okay, so in order to get feedback, we need to enable self-modulation on operator 1. So it already has some of that sound to it, but obviously we're looking to make this into a pad sound. And I think for a pad, linear decay may make more sense. That's because an exponential decay will drop rather suddenly, but you only have control over the curvature of the envelope stages on the downward slopes. So if you have a linear upward slope followed by a steep downward slope, you get a very sudden transition here. So I want a relatively smooth transition through that top. So let's make this quite slow. This is the bass part. So let's let it take 8 seconds to come up, 4 seconds to come up, 8 seconds to come down, and let's say 4 seconds on the release. So I feel like the volume is correct, but the modulation becomes too strong at the top of that, so I'm going to turn the depth down. I think that works a little better. Okay, and since this is going to be for the bass, I'm going to turn it down. So let's pitch it down This is 1 octave down, or half the pitch of the note that I play. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to want more timbral complexity here. If I do want more timbral complexity, I may move from the sine wave to a more complex waveform. So just as an example, here it is with triangle. So a lot more buzz, a lot more body. But for now, I think sine is a good place to start. It has movement, it has that swell, I quite like it. So now let's look at the next section. So this is going to be my mids, and I definitely want, therefore, it to be on the pitch that I play. So that was an octave down, this is on pitch, this one will probably be an octave up. So let's just bring it in. So I think probably in this episode I'm going to go through setting up the basic timbre. Then maybe in the next episode I'm going to start adding more expressive capabilities and probably more modulation. And depending on how long that takes, it may be 2 more episodes, it may be 3, just to set some expectations. So I think I would like then these 2 operators. So let's go into the FM edit mode. And probably I'd like both of them to modulate this. So let's say operator 3. I'm just going to put these at maximum for now, and the level will adjust how much comes through. And then let's imagine that operator 4 only modulates at a lesser degree. Then operator 3 can also be modulated by operator 4. So it can be modulated fully. So I'm just going to listen to this now. I'm going to turn down, in fact, what I'm going to do is stop sending operator 1 to the mixer temporarily. So that's kind of like muting it. Okay, so I'm liking the way that that sounds. I think the carrier is going to need a softer attack, but maybe it can have a little faster attack than that. That was 4 seconds. So I think what I'm going to do then is I'm going to make operator 2 have a 3-second attack. And then I think I did 4 and 8. So let's do 3 and 9. Just so it's roughly the same amount of time traveling through that journey. And then this release can be 4.5. So let's just try it. So the sound we're getting on release there is because the release stage of these modulators is shorter than the release stage of this. So we get that sort of pop as the sound comes out. I think we could use that. I think that's quite nice. This one I'm also going to go linear. Now I'm going to shape these. And I think what I'd like these to do is to have a shorter attack and the longer decay, but drop to a lower level. So let's just experiment with that. So the attack is 3 seconds. So let's put this one attack at 2 seconds. I'm going to do this kind of formulaically for now, just so we can get something in place. And we're going to go back and revisit this a bit. So that was a 9-second decay. This can have, say, 5-second decay, and then a 3-second decay, and then 3-second decay can come with a 1.5-second release, and 5 can come with a 2.5-second. And I think these, I'm going to go for linear with these as well. I might not use linear in the upper. So let's just listen. So let's tune these. So I had that one at 1. So let's see what happens if we put this at 2 and this at 3. So they come out very, very bright. So I'm going to turn them down a bit. One alternative I have to actually turning these levels down that's probably a little easier is turning down the levels in the algorithm itself. The reason that's useful is because then the user could adjust these over their full throw. In fact, the simplest would probably be if they could naturally sit at their 50% level and the user algorithm took care of all those levels, then the user could turn them up or down. But for now, I'm just going to leave them up and I'm going to listen and I'm going to turn these modulation amounts down. So that's kind of ridiculous at the moment. So let's turn that down to 50 and 25 maybe. And then this one can come down to 50. It's a little better, but still a bit much. So let's turn these down to, let's say 35 and 15. And then this one can also be 35. Sounding better. Now I can use these levels more meaningfully. Okay, so now let's bring back in operator 1 and listen to the combination. Okay, I think I can hear the sound is closer to what I wanted. I think maybe this could do with a bit more a sort of grit to it, and that may come from adjusting the waveform type. So let's see what happens. This may be too bright, but I'm going to try triangle. Still a bit strong. I think what I'm going to do instead is try and add a bit of feedback to it. So remember, what I'm looking for here is a basic shape and a timbre. The movement in the sound is going to come as a second pass. So I want to make sure that this gives me the tone that I want and the rough shape that I want, but not necessarily all the expression and not necessarily all the motion that I'm going to be looking for. Also be aware that the filter is available to us. So on average, I'm going to err towards making something that is brighter and maybe a little too harsh in the high end, so as I can dial that back and then that can become an expressive parameter. So anyway, let's, I suppose, take these two out for now. And then we'll look at the last voice here. So let's go back to user algorithm. Turn off that and that. So now we're only listening to this. So what we did previously, and I think we should do again, is we used operator 6, the modulator, to send a sort of shaped noise pulse. And that noise pulse is really what drove this. So I want operator 5 to be modulated by operator 6. So this is going to be sending in that noise pulse. And then this is going to be the comb filter. So let's have a look. This one, I think pink noise is what worked best there. And then for this one, we're using effect, comb filter. So let's... So note that even though feedback is on, the sound sounds truncated. That's because the release is very short. So now you can hear the release is long. So I will use this envelope, but I'm not going to have an envelope that's very tight, especially the release phase. I might use a... Okay, yeah, maybe I'll put some attack there, but more importantly will be the shape of this. So... So I'm liking the sound already, actually. So let's say 2.5 seconds. So let's see what happens if I tune that an octave down. So the comb filter is now tuned down so as its fundamental pitch is an octave below. So this is tuned an octave up. So the comb filter is now at the pitch of the note we're playing, but the harmonics and the basic sound start an octave up. And that ringing at the end, that's the feedback. So I think I would like to already, even though I'm not quite at that stage, maybe add a little movement to this. So an obvious way to add some movement is going to be, that is operator 5. So to put something in the mod matrix. So operator 5, comb filter frequency. So let's just listen to what happens if we adjust it. So that's even too far. So let's... Okay, so I'm going to have that driven by an LFO. So let's go and look at LFO 3. And let's have it fade in. So let's try. Even that's a bit strong, so I'm gonna turn this down a little more. Okay, so let's bring the other operators back in, 1 and 2. Okay, so I think we have something that is starting to get there in terms of an overall timbre, but I think the most obvious thing to me is that it really gets too bright. So the obvious resolution to it getting too bright is a filter. So now I'm going to adjust the shape of EG2, just so I have something that sounds like it's got something going on. So let's go for 6 seconds up, 6 seconds down, and it can have a 6-second release as well. So let's just listen to that. Okay. See what happens if I make that envelope much more exaggerated. Interesting to see what happens if I make that velocity sensitive. So I think I've already decided I'd like that envelope to come up more rapidly. So let's bring that up in 3 and bring it down in 9. Let's let it release in 6. Okay, so that sounds quite strong. That sounds quite a bold sound so far. There's a lot of timbre going on there. So what I'm going to do in the next few episodes is I'm going to, having already brought in the filter, I'm going to add various other velocity expressions and modulations and maybe mod wheel expression to try and allow us to control that sound and make it a little more musical. And then we'll probably go into considering using some unison for it and putting in some effects and hopefully adding some modulation on all of that to give us a more complete tone and a more playable performative sound. So in any case, I hope you've enjoyed the series so far. I hope you enjoyed this episode in particular. But most importantly, thank you very much for watching and goodbye.